Not all legends are meant to be tested, but Emily was different. She had always been fascinated by the unknown, the mysterious, and the supernatural. From a young age, she devoured stories of haunted houses, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained phenomena. Her friends often teased her about her obsession, but Emily didn't mind. She was determined to uncover the truth behind the legends, no matter the cost. The house stood like a malevolent spectre, its dark silhouette looming against the moonlit sky. It was a place of whispered secrets and chilling tales, a house that had seen more than its fair share of tragedy. The locals spoke of it in hushed tones, warning anyone who would listen to stay away. But Emily was not one to be deterred by mere stories. She had heard the legends of the family that had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a sense of foreboding. The house had been abandoned for decades, its once grand facade now crumbling and overgrown with ivy. The windows, shattered and broken, seemed to stare out like empty eyes, watching and waiting. The yard was a tangled mess of weeds and overgrown bushes, adding to the sense of neglect and decay. It was a place that seemed to exist outside of time, untouched by the world around it. Armed with a flashlight and a camera, Emily stepped inside, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She had spent weeks researching the house, poring over old newspaper articles and talking to anyone who might have information. She knew the risks, but she was determined to uncover the truth. As she crossed the threshold, she felt a chill run down her spine, as if the house itself was aware of her presence. The door creaked open with a shuddering groan, the sound echoing through the empty halls. It was as if the house was reluctant to let her in, but Emily pressed on. She shone her flashlight around the room, revealing dust-covered furniture and thick cobwebs that seemed to hang like ghostly shrouds. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and neglect, and Emily had to fight the urge to turn back. Dust-covered furniture and thick cobwebs greeted her, each step she took stirring up clouds of dust that danced in the beam of her flashlight. The house was eerily silent, the only sound the creak of the floorboards beneath her feet. Emily moved cautiously, her senses on high alert. She knew that she was not alone in the house, that something was watching her from the shadows. Her breath heavy, she ventured to the attic and found the infamous diary, the one that had been mentioned in so many of the stories. It was hidden beneath a pile of old clothes and forgotten trinkets, its leather cover cracked and worn. Emily's hands trembled as she opened it, the pages yellowed with age. She could feel the weight of the years in her hands, the sense of history and tragedy that clung to the book. Its pages yellowed and worn, yet one entry seemed disturbingly fresh. The ink was dark and crisp, as if it had been written only yesterday. Emily's eyes widened as she read the words, her heart pounding in her chest. The diary spoke of a dark entity that fed on fear, a malevolent presence that had driven the family to madness and despair. It warned of the dangers of staying in the house, of the terrible fate that awaited those who dared to enter. It warned of a dark entity that fed on fear. The words seemed to leap off the page, filling Emily with a sense of dread. She could feel the presence of the entity lurking in the shadows, watching her every move. The temperature in the room began to drop, and Emily could see her breath in the cold air. She knew that she had to leave, but something held her in place, a sense of curiosity and determination that refused to let her go. Suddenly the temperature dropped, and an eerie whispering filled the air. Emily's heart raced. Her flashlight flickered out, plunging her into darkness. She could hear the whispers growing louder, a chorus of voices that seemed to come from all around her. She felt a cold hand brush against her cheek, and she screamed, the sound echoing through the empty house. An eerie whispering filled the air. Emily's heart raced. Her flashlight flickered out. She was plunged into darkness, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. She could feel the presence of the entity, its cold breath on her neck. She fumbled with the flashlight, trying to get it to work, but it was no use. She was alone in the dark, with only the whispers and the cold to keep her company. In the dark, a shuffling noise grew closer. Emily's heart pounded in her chest, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. She could hear the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving towards her. She knew that she had to get out, but her legs felt like lead, her body frozen with fear. She could feel the presence of the entity, its malevolent gaze fixed on her. She turned the light back on, revealing a gaunt, shadowy figure with hollow eyes. The figure seemed to be made of darkness itself, its eyes empty and soulless. Emily could feel the weight of its gaze, the sense of malevolence that radiated from it. She knew that she was in grave danger, that the entity would not let her leave the house alive. The figure advanced, its movements jerky and unnatural. It seemed to glide across the floor, its limbs moving in ways that defied logic. Emily backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the cold seeping into her bones, the sense of dread that filled the room. She knew that she had to do something, that she could not let the entity take her. Emily backed into a corner, clutching the diary desperately. She could feel the presence of the entity, its cold breath on her neck. She knew that she had to fight, that she could not let the entity take her. She looked around the room, searching for something, anything that she could use to defend herself. Her eyes fell on a lamp, and she knew what she had to do. She smashed a lamp against the figure, the sound of breaking glass echoing through the room. The figure recoiled, its form flickering and fading. Emily could feel the whispers growing fainter, the sense of dread lifting. She knew that she had to get out, that she could not stay in the house any longer. It recoiled, and the whispers stopped. Emily could feel the presence of the entity fading, its grip on her loosening. She knew that she had to leave, that she could not stay in the house any longer. She turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the cold air on her face, the sense of freedom that came with escaping the house. The door creaked open, and she bolted into the night, never to be seen again. The house stood silent and empty, its secrets hidden once more. The locals spoke of Emily in hushed tones, warning anyone who would listen to stay away. But the house remained, waiting for the next curious soul to come too close. The house remains, waiting for the next curious soul to come too close. It is a place of whispered secrets and chilling tales, a house that has seen more than its fair share of tragedy. The locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning anyone who will listen to stay away. But there are always those who are drawn to the unknown, who are willing to risk everything to uncover the truth. Will it be you? Will you be the one to uncover the secrets of the house, to face the entity that lurks within? The house waits, its dark silhouette looming against the moonlit sky. It is a place of mystery and danger, a place that calls to those who are brave enough to answer. Will you be the one to heed its call, to step into the unknown and face the darkness that lies within?